Good morning, everyone. Again, thank you so much for coming today. This is an amazing turnout, and so thank you so much for coming. Welcome to the Reservoir War Historical Marker Dedication Ceremony. On behalf of Jane Nice, who's seated back here, my partner in the project here, I'm Michael Werkamp, and we'll be your host today. We have a program that I think is going to be exciting for all of you, and we're really pleased that you've taken time out of your weekend to join us. This event that we're commemorating today, the Reservoir War, I would argue, Jane would argue, I think there's a lot of people that would argue is really the signature event of our county's history. It's where we get our county motto, and really is significant enough that Jane and I felt like, man, we really need to get a historical marker for this. And so you'll hear about that today and how it came to be. Before we begin, just a reminder to please follow COVID-19 mask and social distancing mandates throughout the day today. We have an exciting morning planned with many speakers, followed by a reception at Antwerp schools. I'll give you a little bit more information about that in a little bit. You're all invited to the school to join us for the reception. We're going to begin today with an invocation by Dr. Sean Mateko of Emmanuel Baptist Church.
Thank you so much for being here today. Would you join me as we come before the Lord on this historic day? Our most gracious God and Father, Lord, in days past, Jacob, he had set up a marker in Bethel to commemorate the powerful vision that you had given to him. Likewise, your servant Joshua also set up a marker in Gilgal as a memorial to your love and your miraculous assistance as the 12 tribes crossed the Jordan River into the promised land on dry ground. Also, Samuel recognized you as the source of victory for the Israelites as they came under imminent attack from the Philistines, and they erected that stone of help, or that great Ebenezer. And in each of these situations, it was that we might remember today your glory and your mighty hand at work in the lives of the communities of your people. Today, Father, we come to this place and time in Paulding County, and we've come to set up yet another marker, a marker that shall serve as a reminder to all who see it as a commendation and both a recognition of the many people who worked tirelessly and fought mightily to bring about the birth of what is now our great community. And as much as we remember their efforts today, Lord, we remember all their labors of great love and sacrifice. We give praise to you, our God and our Father, for establishing and also guiding their paths. We acknowledge that we are here today, Father, because you moved into the hearts and in the lives of our forefathers. Therefore, today, Lord, we seek your blessing upon their effort and also on ours as we both reflect and remember that we stand in time because you upheld our fathers with your mighty right hand. May we all say and do today everything that we do, affirm our heritage, and praise you, our sovereign Lord and God. This we offer in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. And all of his people said, Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Mateko. Next, Boy Scout Troop 143 of Antwerp, Ohio will present the colors and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
If everyone would
Please
rise.
stand.
Color Guard, attention. Color Guard, advance. Color Guard, halt. Color Guard, post the colors. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and Color guard, return to ranks. You may be seated.
Thank you, Boy Scout Troop 143. Our first speaker this morning is Lisa Glass, President of Antwerp Community Development Committee, one of our marker sponsors.
Welcome. Good morning, everyone. Welcome you to this wonderful dedication of this historical marker that we were very proud to be a part of. I'm Lisa Glass, President of ACDC. For those of you who don't know much about ACDC, we got a group of people together some 15 years ago to see what we could do to breathe new life into Antwerp. We had a wonderful school, but things were slow, buildings were empty, and we just had a vision on how we could help small businesses beautify the town, bring people to the town to raise their family, because we feel Antwerp is a wonderful little bedroom community that has a lot to offer. So we've been around some 15 years, done multiple things. Businesses have come to us. We've helped them get started. We've helped different organizations obtain some goals that they have, whether it was with hard work, donations that we've given them. We've just been pretty proud of what we've done. And when Jane came to me a little over a year ago and asked if we would be willing to sponsor, immediately I knew we wanted to, but I needed to run it by the board first. And so when we met, I brought it to their attention, and immediately everybody was 100% on board to do this. These are the things that was part of our mission statement, is bringing knowledge and awareness to our community, to this county. And we have been very proud what they've accomplished, and to be a part of it has been amazing. And I appreciate and am very happy that we were involved in this and could help in any way. So everybody enjoy the program. There's a lot here that's going to happen, and it'll be fun to watch. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Our next speaker is Kim Sutton, President of the John Paulding Historical Society, another one of our marker sponsors.
Thank you, and it's great to see everybody here, and I'm so thankful. Whoops. Oh, they just told me they got rocks up here I can put this down with. So, on behalf of the John Paulding Historical Society, I would like to thank Judge Michael Werkamp and Jane Nice for all of their hard work and effort in spearheading this project. And I know it was a lot of hard work. It just blesses my heart to see young people become actively involved in our county's history. Collaboration and cooperation between like-minded individuals and corporate entities has made this possible. And I'd like to thank Cooper Farms and ACDC for what you've done. Without you, this wouldn't have been possible. Paulding County was unique in that we had two canals that crossed our county. They were instrumental in the development of Paulding County and the settlement of the Great Black Swamp. Over a decade ago, Victor Toohey believed that there should be an Ohio historical marker to commemorate the conflux of the Maumee Erie and the Wabash Erie Canal in Junction. With the help of Les Weidenhammer, who was the president then of the John Paulding Historical Society, and his daughter and son-in-law, Mary and Jerry Price, in 2008, that happened. Unfortunately, Victor had passed away, and he didn't get to see the marker set, that was his dream. So here we are again, and we're commemorating another piece of our Paulding County Canal history. The Paulding Reservoir War gave Paulding exclusive distinction. It also gave us our motto that our county still carries today, which is no compromise. So I think it's really important that we not forget that. There's more to come too. The John Paulding Historical Society recently received mitigation monies from EDP Renewables Timber Ridge Wind Farm. It's a lot to say. And one of the projects that was approved was the marking of historical locations along the Wabash Erie Canal from Indiana to Junction. And Judge Werkamp and Jane Nice were the ones that submitted that project under our umbrella through the John Paulding Historical Society. And so we'll be looking for that and excited to see that. This will help travelers know the unique history that they're passing by. They'll be identifying where the locks were. A lot of people go down the road and they don't even know they're going by a canal, so I'm really excited about that. And while I'm here in front of the microphone, I would like to encourage everybody to come visit your museum. We have 3 buildings that jam-packed full, and what we do is tell the story of how Paulding County was settled out of the Great Black Swamp. We actually have in our collection an original canal scoop. It was found in the bed of the canal, and it was used to dig and maintain it. So we have a lot of history there, and it's your museum, it's your history. Come and see us. So thank you for being here and taking part of this, as we always remember our Paulding County history.
Thank you, Kim. Next, I'd like to welcome Jim Cooper to the podium. Jim is CEO at Cooper Farms, which is a marker sponsor and the owner of the farm here where the marker is erected. Jim?
Thanks, Michael. Well, good morning. On behalf of my brother Gary and my sister Diane and all of our extended Cooper family, plus our many Cooper team members, we'd like to thank you for including us in this historical event. When we first were asked if we would allow a historical monument to be placed on our land, we said, tell us more. Our dad, Virgil, was always a supporter of local communities, events, organizations, in Paulding County, and we followed in his footsteps. This request made perfect sense to us, so here we are, several years later, soon to unveil the newest Paulding County historical marker. Like you've heard before, the rest is history.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Our fourth and final marker sponsor is the Ohio History Connection, formerly known as the Ohio Historical Society, which was unable to send a representative to be at today's ceremony due to COVID-19 travel restrictions on state offices. However, the Ohio History Connection did send commendations to our other marker sponsors, which I'll invite Kim Sutton to read at this time.
From the Ohio History Connection, they commend Cooper Farms, Antwerp Community Development Corporation, and the John Paulding Historical Society for furthering the knowledge of our state's heritage by placing an Ohio historical marker to tell the story of the Reservoir War and its place in Paulding County history. April 24th, 2021, signed by Bert Logan, Executive Director and CEO, and Thomas V. Kema, President of the Board of Trustees.
I'm going to talk this morning briefly about how the marker came to be. It's been a long, long road getting to this point. The Reservoir War began on the night of April 25th, 1887, 134 years ago tomorrow. Since that date, much ink and paper has been spent documenting, discussing, and debating the event. The first ink and paper was spent at 9:41 a.m. the morning after the event, when Governor Foraker received the first telegram from Defiance informing him, quote, "The destruction is complete and mob law reigns supreme," unquote. Newspapers around the county, state, and country ran articles about the event in the days that followed. In 1892, the Historical Atlas of Paulding County, Ohio was published, which contained a detailed account of the Reservoir War. It should come as no surprise then that the Reservoir War has been in the hearts and on the minds of many over the past 134 years, including many who, like Jane and I, believe this event is deserving of a marker commemorating it. It's been an honor for Jane and I to be the caretakers of this historical marker project. I was and am a history nerd, especially a local history nerd, so naturally this significant event piqued my interest at a young age. I was in a garage band in high school and wanted to name it No Compromise, our county's motto derived from the Reservoir War. I thought it was a brilliant band name. My bandmates did not, and I was outvoted. In 2013, I brought my wife Laura, who's here today, to this site. I told her how much this event meant to me. I think we parked right over there, right along the side of the road, and I told her how much the Reservoir War meant to me, and that I would make sure that this site had a marker someday. And the good sport she is, she saw me head up to the Paulding County Carnegie Library several Saturday mornings in 2015 as I researched the event and prepared an application in 2015 for a historical marker. I talked to the late Les Weidenhammer, who offered pointers on the marker application process and gave me his blessing for the project. Ultimately, applying for the marker didn't pan out in 2015, and we had a baby in September that year, and I resigned myself to the fact that the project would have to stay on hold a few years. Then, in 2018, at a Kiwanis Club of Paulding County meeting, my friend and local author and historian, Jane Nice, presented about her experience writing a play called No Compromise, Mosquitoes, Mayhem, and the Militia in the Great Black Swamp. As she spoke that day, I said, the time is now to make this marker happen. I talked to Jane afterwards, and we made a pact to see this marker through. Jane and I worked together over the course of the next year to conduct more research. We submitted our application the week before the July 1st, 2019 deadline. We were elated to learn that out of the 70 applications that the Ohio History Connection received in 2019, that the Reservoir War marker was one of 27 chosen and one of 10 to receive a $1,000 grant. Our vision was to dedicate the marker on Saturday, April 25th, 2020, the 133rd anniversary of the event, as part of Paulding County's bicentennial celebration. COVID-19 had other plans, however, and the dedication was postponed. The marker was cast in Marietta, Ohio at Siwa Studios. It was delivered by semi to Cooper Farms, Paulding Mill, on May 18, 2020, during a driving rain. The marker came in a big wooden box, which mill manager Jerry Feeney put in a feed truck wash bay to get it out of the rain. Jane and I stood in the bay eagerly awaiting Jerry's retrieval of a cordless drill to unscrew the lid to the wooden box when up went the doors to the bay and on went the wash jets. If any of you have ever wondered what it's like to walk through a car wash, Jane and I can tell you what it's like to walk through a car wash. Jane and I kicked around the idea of dedicating the marker in August of last year, but as more and more events were canceled, we felt it best to keep the marker dedication ceremony on hold. A few months ago, Jane and I consulted with local authorities and agreed it was time to dedicate the marker, and here we are. We settled on April 24th because it felt like a good fit, the eve of the 134th anniversary of the Reservoir War, and we get a feel for what the weather might have been like on April 25th, 1887, when the Reservoir War happened. This ceremony today, folks, is the culmination of much literature and lore about the Reservoir War. You're all witnesses to history today, and we're thrilled to share this day with you. Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Dr. Martin Miller, Antwerp Local School Superintendent, who will provide a brief history of the Wabash and Erie Canal. Dr. Miller?
Well, the good news is, Michael, I'm a history geek also, and I think we probably have about 70 other people who are geeks on this. So you're not alone today. Well, yes, Jane Nice did some research, and she looked at different materials, and one in particular that she cited for what I'm going to share with you came from a book published by B.J. Griswold in 1917. And so as I go through this, I'm going to try to cover the Wabash and Erie Canal, which I'm standing on, and some of you are sitting on. Well, the events of April 25th, 1887, which are commemorating today, took place on the Wabash and Erie Canal. That waterway was situated here in northern Paulding County along the same path that County Road 180 now runs. To this day, locals still refer to this stretch as the Canal Road. When the Wabash and Erie Canal fully opened in the 1840s, it was the primary means of transporting people and commerce from southern Indiana to the Miami and Erie Canal, which runs north and south from Cincinnati to Lake Erie, and from there to points east. Both canals, which met in Paulding County in the town of Junction, played an important role in carving out settlements from the swampy and wild terrain in the newly established states of Indiana and Ohio, where roads were nearly non-existent and wagon travel over land was almost impossible. The undertaking of such a massive infrastructure project was years from inception to completion. After an 1818 survey by Captain James Riley of a route from the Maumee to the Wabash River, legislation in both states began addressing the resources that would be necessary to create a man-made canal system. Judge Samuel Hanna of Fort Wayne believed that the project could become a reality if the citizens of Indiana and Ohio worked together, and in 1823 he began corresponding with Indiana representatives and senators about the canal's possibilities. The following year, the Indiana Congress passed an act authorizing survey of potential canal routes through public land to connect the Maumee and the Wabash rivers. A Corps of Engineers was assigned to Fort Wayne to make a preliminary survey of that stretch of the public works project. Work was delayed when the first engineer and then his successor both died of malaria. They contracted on the job, and the task was not completed until another 2 years. The canal project was a hot political issue, as Judge Burkamp mentioned, for many years in Indiana. One of its biggest promoters, Judge Hanna, was elected to the state legislature and then the state senate, where he fought for the internal improvements. In 1826, Judge Hanna was one of 3 men appointed to a canal commission. When the men learned that there had not been adequate provisions made for the survey, and that they did not even have access to the tools required to complete one, Judge Hanna took matters into his own hands and rode his horse to Detroit, where he boarded a boat to New York to go purchase the equipment necessary. Civil engineers were scarce, but the canal commissioners managed to find a skilled one to ascertain the measure of water supply for the summit level of the canal. However, on the second day of his employment, the engineer was stricken with a fever and he died. Judge Hanna wielded an axe and, together with another member of the commission, finished the job before returning to his seat in the Senate. In 1828, legislation in Indiana and Ohio authorized the sale of lands to fund their canal projects. 3 years later, Judge Hanna, who was still a state senator as well as canal commissioner, fund commissioner, and chairman of the canal committee, exerted his influence to secure a loan of $200,000 to proceed with the Wabash and Erie Canal project. Jesse Williams, who was only 25 years old but had experience surveying canals in eastern Ohio, was appointed chief engineer of the Wabash and Erie Canal. With funding and expertise in place, work on the canal was ready to commence. The first contracts were let in June of that year, and in October the land office was opened for the sale of land grants for the government along the route of the waterway. The government set the minimum price, catch this, Jim, $2.50 an acre. Okay, sold. In May of 1833, the contract was let for the remaining 13 miles of the canal that passed through Fort Wayne, including the construction of a feeder canal which ran parallel to the St. Joseph River north of the city. This canal also eventually fed the 6-mile reservoir here in Paulding County, the eastern bank of which is located right here, and some of you are standing on County Township Road 77, which is commonly called High Road because its formation rises above the surrounding ground. In 1835, the Wabash and Erie Canal opened from Fort Wayne to Huntington, Indiana, and communities in the northern section of the state grew over the next 5 years as boats on the canal brought people and commodities to the area. By 1840, however, the dream of opening a canal from Indiana to Lake Erie was not yet realized because the Ohio section of the Wabash and Erie Canal, located right here where we're at, had not been completed. Engineer Jesse Williams was sent to prevail upon the Ohio legislature to proceed with the project. Williams was successful, and work on the Ohio stretch of the canal and the 6-mile reservoir began. Unfortunately, sickness among the workers due to the swampy conditions of the area and the lack of nearby building of stone delayed progress. It was not until 1843 that the work was completed on the Wabash and Erie Canal and opened up from Lafayette, Indiana to Junction, Ohio, where it joined the Miami and Erie Canal and met the goal of having a continuous transportation system to Toledo, Ohio. After the railroads were built, about 10 years later, passenger travel on the canals all but halted, and the canals limped along for a couple more decades. The railroads alone, however, did not cause the demise of the canals. This mishandling of the sale of bond funds for the project, overzealous legislative acts of 1835, which called for more canal projects than could be successfully completed, and the amount of funds required to maintain damaged sections of the canal combined to outdate the entire system relatively soon, as it was already established. And that's the rest of the story.
Our next speaker will be Jane Nice, who will set the scene for us.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I think a lot of us here are all right, we're history nerds. We're all in the same boat. We enjoy looking back to the past and looking ahead to the future, right? I want to thank all of our sponsors. It's great to get to know you today. We have a couple of descendants of the dynamiters who are going to say, one of them is going to say something, so we're really excited about that. I am going today to set the scene for you to what things were like in Paulding County 200 years ago and up through the canal and reservoir dynamiting. So today, Paulding County, as you look around, mostly farm ground, flanked by these big ditches. Some of these big ditches were formerly the canals. The majority of our roads are paved. We can hop in our cars, go to Fort Wayne, go to Defiance. It's all real easy now, right? Well, things weren't so easy then. Let's go back 200 years. Think about what Paulding County was like. The borders of Paulding County were entirely within the Great Black Swamp, an area of uninhabitable marshland that covered most of northwest Ohio. Darkness prevailed under the canopy of ancient treetops that cut off the sunlight. Snakes dangled from low tree branches, and bears, wolves, and other creatures roamed the territory. The air was thick with mosquitoes. In order to get anywhere in Paulding County then, a person had to navigate the waters of the Maumee or Auglaize rivers, or one of the smaller creeks. Over land, Indian trails could be followed on horseback or foot, but one had to be careful with each step not to sink and become stuck in the mire of the swamp. It is no wonder that when Paulding County was established in 1820, only a handful of settlers lived here. By 1830, the U.S. Federal Census listed 161 residents in all of Paulding County. At least that's the official record. How would they have taken the census? I don't know how that works. Anyway. By 1840, great forests still stood as far as the eye could see. The population of Paulding County expanded to 1,034, which according to Henry Howe was the lowest of any county in the state at the time. The challenges of improving the ground, cutting down the trees, removing the stumps, and draining the land in order to farm it, not to mention building a house and a barn from that timber, all while keeping your cow and your horses safe from the wolves, your children alive from malaria. It would have been insurmountable. It's a wonder that anybody even came to live here then. 1840 marked a do-or-die moment for Paulding County. The Wabash and Erie Canal was opened in Indiana, and the Miami and Erie Canal extension was creeping its way towards Paulding County from the south. According to the engineer's plans, these two transportation waterways were to meet in northeast Paulding County and open up both states to Lake Erie and then the eastern ports. Having this junction would be a significant boom for the county, but there was a problem. Building anything in the swamp was hard, especially then with the prevailing conditions and little more than manpower, horsepower, and a few tools. Clearing the timber and stumps was one thing. Just imagine shoveling the muck and unleashing the foul, malarial pestilence underneath it. In the history of Northwest Ohio, Nevin O. Winter wrote about how each worker who was employed to dig the 6-mile reservoir, the bank was here, the bank was there, it went 2,000 acres that way. Each worker passed under a rope a few times a day and was given a 12-ounce jigger of whiskey just to take the edge off of the working conditions. Quote, "You wouldn't expect them to do this work sober, would you?" a jigger boss later said. Many of the laborers were Irishmen who had built the canals in the eastern United States and followed the work in Ohio and Indiana, but the swampy conditions were so hazardous that a large number of workers died. Of those who survived, many settled in the area. If you can trace your family from Ireland to Paulding County in the mid-1800s, you are likely a descendant of a canal builder. Finally, the Ohio section of the Wabash and Erie Canal and its feeder, the 6-mile reservoir, were completed in 1843, and the Miami and Erie Canal in 1845. The dream of opening the states of Indiana and Ohio for commerce was finally realized. Junction, the town where the two canals met, boomed, as did Tate's Landing. Packet boats carrying passengers moved through our county, and groceries and other supplies were brought to our settlements. At last, Paulding County was opened for business. The main commodity that the county had to offer was timber, of course. Felled trees were burned in kilns to smelt iron ore in factories called furnaces. A few of the beehive-like structures that were used as kilns for the burning of charcoal can still be seen on the north side of the canal road, which is here, between here and 127, on grounds that locals still call the Furnace Farm. By 1850, Paulding County's population had almost doubled. The town of Junction rivaled Fort Wayne in size, and toll receipts from the canal were higher there than anywhere in the state, even Cincinnati and Toledo. Foreigners invested in Paulding County timber ground. Skilled Canadian timbermen felled giant trees in the winter when the ground was frozen and rolled or dragged the logs to the canal banks to be ready to be shipped out after the ice thawed and the canals ran again in the spring. Some of this timber famously made it to England from Paulding County to be used in the building of giant ships. This is right before the Civil War. Most of it ended up in Defiance for the making of furniture, spoke wheels, and stave barrels. As trees were cut and sunlight hit the earth to help dry it out, valuable farm ground was put under cultivation and settlers came to the area. The 6-mile reservoir, which covered 2,000 acres, was a recreational spot for ice skating in the winter and boating and fishing in the warmer months when rainfall did not cause it to overflow its banks or drought to dry it up and leave the stench of rotting fish and frogs wafting through the air. Transportation was changing then too. Railroads were replacing the canals for passenger travel and soon for much more. The expense of maintaining the canals was cost prohibitive, and whole sections were in states of disrepair. By the 1870s, Indiana abandoned its portion of the Wabash and Erie and cut off the 6-mile reservoir's fresh water supply. The body of water became stagnant and hazardous to the surrounding citizens who were plagued with the ague, which is actually malaria. That's what they called it. Paulding County men petitioned to have the reservoir and canal legally abandoned, but their efforts failed. Something had to be done. Secret meetings were held, and a bold plan was put into place by the men of Antwerp.
Thank you, Jane. All right, it's almost time. We're joined today by two dynamiter descendants, Greg Brink of Grosse Pointe, Michigan, who is a descendant of dynamiter Harrison Gordon, and Doug Michael of Eden, Ohio, descendant of dynamiter John B. Zuber. I'll now invite Greg to the podium.
Well, thank you, Michael, for the kind introduction, and many thanks to everyone involved in making this historic marker become a reality. I'm humbled and honored to be a part of this significant event. My name is Greg Brink, and I am a great-great-grandson of Harrison Gordon, or he was commonly referred to as H.H. Gordon. Until recently, I knew nothing about my mom's side of my family's history. It wasn't until a friend of mine asked me to join a genealogical society where I currently live outside of Detroit. It was during this research process for the application that led me to H.H. Gordon, and a special thank you to Walter Lang for helping me fill in the blanks of his life. I knew nothing about H.H. Gordon's life, but I soon discovered he was a great man, and he's now one of my favorite ancestors. H.H. was born in 1841 to Thomas and Sarah Gordon of Warwick, New York. Alongside George Washington, H.H.'s grandfather Samuel made the famous 1776 Christmas Eve crossing of the Delaware. H.H. followed in his grandfather's footsteps, enlisting not once but twice in the Civil War. He rose to the rank of first sergeant with the 176th Regiment in New York. In one of his Civil War letters, he demonstrated his love of his hometown of his birth by making sure the local newspaper had a first-hand account of the battles he and his fellow regiment fought in. This included the Battle of La Forge Crossing, which is just south of Thibodaux, Louisiana, where his regiment was outnumbered but ultimately won. His letter included full names of everyone back home that had died or had been injured in the battle, so that the newspaper could properly memorialize these brave men. Many historians describe this battle as being notably fierce, that included the use of bayonets and hand-to-hand combat. Little did he know that the Civil War experience he had would come in handy in civilian life as well. By 1871, H.H. and his wife Alice Halleck Gordon moved from New York State to Antwerp. And along with his brother Louis, he founded the Antwerp Hub and Spoke Company, which employed over 50 people and utilized thousands of acres of local hardwood for spokes, staves, and other building materials. He went on to be a permanent fixture in business and civic circles in town, owning Gordon & Brothers Hardware and Mercantile. I brought a family treasure with me today. It's H.H.'s shaving mug with Gordon & Brothers Hardware and Mercantile depicted on it. This shaving mug has been sitting on my cabinet shelf for many years, and up until recently, I had no idea of its significance until today. The Reservoir War was due to the devastating impact of the deteriorating canal, and because the state legislature had fallen down on the job. Heavy rains would overflow the reservoir, which would devastate local farmland, in turn hurting the local economy, i.e. the people. And a byproduct every year of the standing water was locally called ague, which we now know as malaria via the mosquitoes. As an important member of the community, I have no doubt H.H. was eager to volunteer. It's a bit ironic that this soldier of the Grand Army of the Republic became a rebel for this cause. The dynamiter's actions saved countless lives and preserved this special place he called home. H.H. passed away in 1930 and is buried next to his wife Alice up the road in Riverside Cemetery. I will visit their graves later today with my father, who is representing my mother as she could not be here today. This marker honors all the dynamiters' service to this community and H.H.'s legacy. It's something that my family will cherish forever. Thank you again to all the sponsors who made this marker happen, and the community and everyone that contributed to this special day. Thank you.
now invite Greg and Doug over to the marker here, and I'll just make a general invitation. Are there any other descendants of dynamiters who are here with us today? If you are, you can come forward and help us unveil the marker. Thank you, Greg and Doug. I'm going to now read the text of the marker for everyone because I'm sure the font is small and you can't read it way in the back. So the front of the marker is on the north side here, and the back of the marker is on the south side. Here goes. Here in 1887, frustrated locals destroyed the 6 Mile Reservoir when illegal efforts to close it failed. Years after any boat ran on the Wabash and Erie Canal, its water source, the 2,000-acre reservoir, became a stagnant, uncultivable breeding ground for disease-carrying mosquitoes. Legislative attempts to abandon the canal and reservoir failed because manufacturers in defiance used the waterway to float logs downstream. On the night of April 25th, 1887, 200 men calling themselves the Dynamiters carried a banner that read, "No compromise, the reservoir must go," and converged here. Overpowered citizen guards gouged the banks of the reservoir, dynamited the bulkhead and lock, and burned down the lockkeeper's house. The next day, Governor Joseph B. Foraker denounced the acts of the mob, the quote, mob of lawless and rioting men, unquote. Governor Foraker dispatched General Henry Axline and several companies of militia from Toledo to this site, where they set up Camp Dynamite to protect state property and preserve peace. By then, the dynamiters had dispersed, and citizens flocked to see the Gatling gun and mingle with the soldiery. The troops were recalled after a week. The conflict's only casualty was Private Fred Reeves, who died of an accidental, self-inflicted gunshot wound. Governor Foraker visited the site a month later and was convinced of the citizens' grievances. A bill for the abandonment of the reservoir and canal passed in the Ohio legislature and became law on April 12, 1888. On July 4, 1888, citizens of the county, joined by troops who served at Camp Dynamite, celebrated in nearby Antwerp. The dynamiters were never punished. Thank you. Just a note for everyone. So on their programs for today, there's a backside, okay? And that is the program, the original program from July 4th, a copy of the original program from July 4th, 1888 at the Grand Jollification in Antwerp. And as you can read through there on their festivities for the day, it was quite the event. So enjoy that copy of that program. Okay, we have some people to thank, and then we're going to go to the school for our reception. So there are many people and organizations that Jane and I would like to thank for helping make the historical marker ceremony possible. Our marker sponsors, we first thank our marker sponsors, Cooper Farms and the Cooper family, Jim, Diane, and Gary, John Paulding Historical Society, Antwerp Community Development Committee, the Ohio History Connection. Our speakers and program participants today, Dr. Sean Matejko, Boy Scout Troop 143 of Antwerp, Ohio, Lisa Glass, ACDC President, Kim Sutton, John Paulding Historical Society President, Jim Cooper, CEO of Cooper Farms, Dr. Martin Biller, Antwerp Local Schools Superintendent, and we thank our Dynamiter descendants, Greg Brink and Doug Michael, for helping us unveil the marker today. Also, Bud Koenig, Jerry Feeney, Greg Good, Luke Weibel, and the others at Cooper Farms who helped shepherd the marker into place here and prepare the marker site for today. Aaron Tim in the Paulding County Engineers Office, Al Manella and Mark Greenwood, Scoutmasters for Boy Scout Troop 143, Laura Russell and Andy Veerhoff at the Ohio History Connection, Antwerp Local Schools for hosting the reception today, the Paulding County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Jason Landers, Chief Deputy Shane Dyson, and Reserve Deputy Jason Schaefer for helping us today, Bryce Steiner, our photographer, Carol Gross at Signature Embroidery, Paulding County Carnegie Library, and Kelly Taylor and the Newspaper Archive. Thank you for that. Crane Township Trustees, Harvest Farm Management, and Dave Nice, Larry Gurrell and Gurrell Brothers Auctioneers and Real Estate for this microphone system that we're using this morning, Joe Barker and My 102.7, the cast of No Compromise, the play, Renee Boss and Rhonda Smalley, Terry and Nancy Werkamp, and finally my wife Laura for putting up with me while over the last 5 years or more while we worked on this project. That concludes our ceremony today at this site, but all of you are welcome to attend a reception at Antwerp Schools immediately following this event. Please enter through the north side of the building, door number 5, and proceed to the auditorium. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.